Yo, what's going on? What's going on? In here a little early. This is the Deprogram Show, and we live. It's going down tonight. Y'all better tune in. Get your popcorn. It's going down. We're going to have a very interesting conversation, and it's going down. Tonight, the Deprogram Show will have none other than Miss Marie Mott, City Council candidate, District 8, co-host of the People's Podcast, as well as leader of the I Can't Breathe Chattanooga. Y'all give it a minute. We add, see what's going on. Hold on. Let me see. And it's going down. Adding our guest, trying to add our guest in. Y'all doing all right tonight? Okay. We're waiting on our guest. Soon as I see her again, she was on here. We just trying to get her to add to the live. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah. It's saying add it now, Marie. This Facebook stuff glitchy, y'all, too. It's crazy. Let's see. Marie, do you see it? It's saying adding, but say no answer from guest. Add. Do. Say connecting, and we live.
There you go. Sorry about that. Mercy.
Ain't no problem. It be like that sometime. You
How
doing
you
all right
doing?
tonight?
I'm
I
doing
can't
well. How are
complain.
you? Good.
I can't complain. So again, let me do this again. Y'all, welcome to the Deprogram Show. I'm your host RMJR, and I got the City Council next District 8. We gonna go on and say that. The co-host of the People's Podcast, as well as y'all know the Chattanooga activist. She keeps her boots on the ground, and a number of other things, as well as At one time, the host of the Marie Mott Show. How you doing, Miss Marie Mott?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I can't complain. I can't complain. Thank you for being on the Deprogram Show.
Thank you for having
And
me.
oh, no problem. We gonna have a little fun. We gonna ask a few warm up questions, and then
Okay.
we gonna go into some serious questions.
Okay.
So I noticed you listen to all types of music, right?
I do.
Okay. So I don't know if nobody ever asked you this. So we gonna go music first. You know, because people used to you being all serious at first, and they used to me being serious as well. So we gonna go music first. All
Okay.
right. My first question. Inside the city of Chattanooga, your top five artists, and outside the city of Chattanooga, number two, your top five artists. We gonna do it like that. Yeah.
Top five artists in the city would be uh D Block J Max. It would be I love King Clown. It would be I love Slat Z. Of course, Usher claims Atlanta, but he's a Chattanoogan, so we'll say Usher. He need to stop capping. Um,
Okay.
Five. Ooh, who would I say five? Carla Scaife. I would have to say is number five, Carla Scaife. As far as outside of the city, uh,
Yep.
definitely Lil Baby. I love Anita Baker, Luther
Okay.
Vandross,
Okay.
um, Funkadelic, and Prince.
Wow. So you got a little soul in, you got a little mix in there.
A little bit.
Okay. So let's see what else I got. Just some warm up questions. All right. Let me ask you this. What, for the people who don't know, tell the people a little bit about the background of Miss Marie Mott.
Well, I am a Chattanooga native, born and raised in East Chattanooga, grew up on Blackford Street. So I love this city. I love being from Chattanooga. I grew up on the same street as my aunt and my grandmother. They were literally in walking distance. I grew up in Bushtown slash Churchville in a very vibrant Black community. Um, so I spent a lot of time with my family. I spent a lot of time in church. I went to McDowell Memorial Church of God in Christ, which is right on the corner of South Orchard Knob and Third Street. Spent a lot of time at Carver Center. I went through the rec centers here. So I am definitely a Chattanoogan. I've got people all over the city. I love the culture of our city. I love the talent of our city. I think Chattanooga even now is underrated. But I'm just a church girl slash person that was just born and raised in a Black community. But my family raised me to serve the people. That was something that was instilled in me as a little girl. Is that um, you owe it to your community to take responsibility of servicing the people. And so I grew up. I built reading centers with my parents. We've done a lot of work. I grew up in the church with church mothers who put you to work. So part of my, my grandmother would have us cleaning pews, getting gum off of pews, cleaning the church. We would, when we had youth events that we would travel across the state for, they wouldn't just send us there. We had to raise our own money. So I got a lot of work ethic from a lot of Black women, whether that it was in community or through the church. And so that's just a little bit about me. I'm just your neighbor that grew up with her family right here in Chattanooga.
Okay. So another thing I've noticed you mentioned Ida B. Wells a lot, correct?
I do. She is one of my
Okay.
sheroes.
So tell me, what inspiration do you get from Miss Ida B. Wells?
Oh man, Ida B. Wells was first of all just a wonderful woman who she had her own paper before it was burnt to the ground. She was an investigative journalist, which I really appreciate If you look at her works, The Red Record, she was one of the first Black people in period to really document the lynching period. And so she would go and actually travel all across the country talking to people who witnessed lynchings and recording the names and trying to understand the story, in particular, what happened a lot to Black men. And then the next phase of her work was not only just the lynching period, but she was very, very vocal about ensuring while white people, as far as white women, were trying to get the right to vote, that they did not leave out Black women. And that woman went all the way to London, making sure that people knew all the way across the pond that Black women deserve to have the right to vote as well. And she was also one of the first Black women that I see after the Civil War that believed in having Black people being armed. I am a Second Amendment supporter. I believe in self-defense. I believe that our people should be trained in firearms, that we need it for our protection, especially in a volatile country like America. And she was one of the first women that you see really talking about having a gun, short of Harriet Tubman. So there are just so many things that I really admire about her. She was very outspoken, unapologetic. She loved being Black. She loved fighting for Black women, Black men, and speaking her truth. And I appreciate that about her.
Okay. So now Chattanooga, y'all know why she likes Ida B. Wells. And I'm going to say this. I believe you are like our Chattanooga's version of Ida B. Wells. So I want
Wow.
to salute you on that. Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. So another question.
Okay.
What's your take on qualified immunity?
We need to get rid of it. I firmly believe in the abolishment of the police. When you look at the police department historically, especially in the Southern context, police extend from the plantation. So they were paddy wagon or slave patrol, or slave catchers. So their job, their function, their genesis, their root is in making sure that Black people stay in their place. Black people are constantly stopped, questioned. Do you deserve to be here? You don't belong here. What are you going? What you doing? Shaking you up and letting you know that you better not ever forget who we say that you are. So yes, I believe in the end of qualified immunity. Police departments have gained a tremendous amount of power over the last century, and the ability for them to be able, as especially like if we think about the Chattanooga Police Department, they're city employees. Can you imagine
Mm-hmm.
a parking employee having a right to shoot you dead and nothing happening to them? That's the equivalent. Or the city janitor shooting you dead and having a right to do that. That's exactly what we're talking about. These people are employed by us, and our tax dollars pay their salary. They should not, even utilizing a weapon should be an absolute last resort, short of somebody pinning you down with gunfire. There's no reason for you to discharge your weapon whatsoever. But when you understand the genesis of police, you understand that not only do you have to abolish the power that they have, they should have never been able to continue beyond what we said was the abolishment of slavery.
So what y'all don't understand, what she just explained was the origin of police comes from, I know this, it used to be called the slave patrol.
Mm-hmm.
So coming from slavery, they wanted a way to control the slaves. So they instituted what's called the slave patrol, which we know now as the police. And they implemented, what is it? What was the original laws called? It slips my mind right
Like
now.
slave codes, black codes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what she was basically just explaining. And under qualified immunity, that's where we get your Mike Browns, your Mike Brown, Eric Garner, and cases of that nature. Where under the qualified immunity, it gives police immunity for basically killing people under their jurisdiction. And most of the time, to be honest, have y'all noticed that it's always the slaves, the ex-slaves, as they say? So I guess my next question, I
Okay.
seen to where you go in on, let me see, what is his name? Uh the sheriff, the Hamilton County Sheriff.
Hmm.
What's his name?
Jim
I don't
Hammond.
even like saying his name because that dude. But yeah, Jim Hammond. So Jim Hammond, years ago, I know you remember this. He made a statement to where he basically said for the criminals, which 9 times out of 10, when they classify people as criminals, they talking about us. He stated either lock them up or let them get separated from the cemetery for lack of a let the cemetery bury them for lack of a better words.
Yep. Lock them
And
up,
since
run them out of town, or put them in the grave.
yeah, and ever since then, I don't know if y'all noticed. I ain't saying he had nothing to do with it, but the peak of the black deaths in Chattanooga has rose since he made that statement. So what's your take? Because I seen you posted to where what's the lady name? Lady running for mayor. You
Dr.
made sure
Woods.
you said y'all see she was standing with Jim Hammonds on a lot of things. I think she was with the NAACP or something. Had something to do with
Formally.
that nature.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what's your take on first Jim Hammond and as well as your take on is her name Dr. Wells or
Dr.
Dr.
Woods.
Woods?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think her first name starts with an E. On your take on Jim Hammond and then your take on Dr. Woods standing with Jim Hammond.
Absolutely. So, Jim Hammond is corrupt, and he is running a corrupt sheriff's department. Under his leadership, not only have black people been brutalized, but his sheriff's deputies have even shot white people in the back, and assaulted white people. So we are seeing terrorism, not only in our community, but some of our counterparts who don't believe that policing is a problem are even beginning to experience power unchecked within the police department. And one of the other things that he is guilty of is not only beating or murdering people, but there was an article that came out last year where accidentally footage, dash cam, and body footage erased. But then
Yeah, I remember that.
if you just do a little bit of digging, guess who is over the IT department for the sheriff's department? His son. So it wouldn't be a mistake
Wow.
when you have FBI and Department of Justice investigations or the people calling for those levels of investigations into this department, that footage from beatings and killings suddenly become erased. So not only is he aiding and abetting, he's also enabling his officers to be able to go into the community and do this. Excuse me.
Oh,
And,
that's okay.
one thing that people don't understand is that when you look at the Constitution, the sheriff has a lot of power. And the sheriff not only has the power over his department, he also has power over the Chattanooga or jurisdiction over the Chattanooga Police Department. So if he was a honorable human being, not only could he clean up his own department, he has the power to tap Chief Roddy on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I see you got officers going out here beating people too and raping people too. I'm going to start busting you up." There's been cities across the country where sheriff's departments have actually closed down municipal police departments because of corruption. He has the power to do something of that magnitude. But what you see is not only is he running a corrupt department, but he's even allowing on a city level a corrupt department to be up under his jurisdiction. So I've been extremely vocal because I see an increase of police violence and brutality, and again, going back to it, against black males. And so, because I love my people and I love the black man, I wanted to be very, very clear to him that I see him, that I understand who he is, what power he is, that he's duly elected, that he answers to the people, which means if he answers to the people, he answers to me. And I know him as a white man. I'm sure every time he hears my name, he probably gets flush red. But if nothing else, I've been vocal because I want him to know that he's not getting away with what he thinks he's getting away with, that we see him. And as far as Dr. Woods was the president of the NAACP at the time. Now, that is supposed to be an organization for the advancement of colored people. How in the hell are we advancing colored people standing with the people beating the hell out of us? Hello,
Don't make
somebody.
sense to me.
It doesn't work like that. And in that particular instance, this was the video that came out after my friend Interstate Tax was beaten in handcuffs, had several of his ribs, his nose, and everything broken. And she went and had a press conference with the sheriff and had not even talked to him or his family. So
Wow.
I didn't want, I'm glad that I have memories like this where Facebook will remind me to repost it, because sometimes a little time goes by and we forget some of these things because it happens so often. But I wanted
Mm-hmm.
people to know she's running for mayor, and if she was a regular citizen already standing with corrupt individuals, well, we'd be
What you think she
foolish
gonna
to
do?
think that she would be any different. And in the words of Mama Maya Angelou, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Okay. So I guess my next question with that, because you stated on Jim Hammond being over Chief Roddy, right? And we
And we
talked
talked
about
about
qualified
qualified
immunity.
immunity.
So George Floyd was when the guy put his
When the
knee
guy
on
put his
George
knee
Floyd's
on
neck.
Floyd's neck,
Put your
put your
headphones back on,
headphones
cause
back on, cause
it getting a little thing. Y'all bear with us. Y'all know how this technology thing go. Do, 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 do. My guest got knocked off. We gonna bring her right back on. Y'all know how this go. They don't want the truth out. We gonna give it to you all the way live, cause this is the Deprogram Show. So y'all give us just a few seconds, and I guarantee you she coming back with that heat, cause that's what we bring. What's going on, Chris? We waiting on Marie Mott to tap back in, and we gonna go on in even further. All right, she's back. Hold on, hold on. It's tripping again. Appreciate that, Chris. I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. My guy Reggie, I see you, Reggie. Y'all bear with us. I appreciate everybody. And while we're waiting on our guests, y'all go subscribe to the Deprogram Show on YouTube. Please go subscribe to the Deprogram Show on YouTube. Exclusive content as well is on there. And this video will be on there. He said that statement a few years ago, Marcus. It was a few years ago. Jim Hammond. Look him up, Jim Hammond. He said the statement a few years ago, brother. It be like that.
Oh,
I
man.
already know.
So sorry, everyone.
No problem. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Check this out. My question was, when the George Floyd incident happened, when the guy put his knee on George Floyd's neck, we seen where Chief Roddy came out and said that basically, if you correct me if I'm wrong, that a guy who does that shouldn't even be in uniform, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did a song called "I Can't Breathe," and in the song, my verse I touched on. I understood about George Floyd, but my verse was basically talking about how, okay, I hear you, Chief Roddy. You say that man shouldn't be on the force when you've been on the Chattanooga police force for what, 25 years? And you've never called out now one of your officers. And I named 3 guys in the song. All 3 guys that I named were killed by the Chattanooga police. So what's your take on Mr. Roddy stating that, okay, this guy shouldn't be in uniform, but he's in his own backyard standing with guys who doing basically the same thing?
I call that being a hypocrite and trying to get a digital photo op. Because you're absolutely right. How many people have we seen in 25 years? I'm just 32. How many people have we seen murdered? Larry Powell, Leslie Prater, Javario Eagle. How many? And in all sections of the city. How many people have we seen beaten? Frederico Wolf beaten in a traffic stop. The man had his hands up, got out the car, and they pummeled him and beat him to a pulp. We've had officers like Officer Michael Wanger they beat Adam Tatum, Christopher Tate. Beat these guys, beat one of them. I know you guys remember that beat, and I think it was at the Salvation Army. They beat the man. It was all on camera. The city fired them. Then the judge made the city give them their job back and give them back pay. And the officer who beat several black men got a promotion. So, don't get on the internet, as the young people say, capping, so you can go viral. And he did. He went viral. And I made sure I tagged him right in a tweet. Here you are capping for the rest of the country like you're this progressive police officer. And I can name several people off the cuff. One of the reasons why I even got really started back into this work was Avery Gray's daughter getting yanked out of a police car. She was 14 years old. And did that officer get fired? Was he even put on desk duty? Nothing happened. So he's a hypocrite, if not a main contributor and participant in a corrupt system right here in the city of Chattanooga, and specifically against the Black community.
Okay. So with that said, you're running for office in District 8, am I right?
That is correct.
Okay. You voiced your concerns about your community, and you've also voiced your disdain for the current man in office in District 8 because I think he's over something to do with like overlooking the police. Am I correct?
That is correct. He's over public safety.
Which is meaning he's overseeing the safety of the public of Chattanooga, which has hand in hand with when the police get beat. Well, when the police beat a citizen and nothing's done about it, the person who's over public safety, it falls on them. Correct.
That is correct.
So your what is your first of all? Why do you feel like, for one, you stated that he needs to be out of there?
Hmm.
Why do you, for the people who don't know who watching this live, and we're talking about Councilman Anthony Byrd, why do you think he's not doing his due diligence for his community? Because he lives in that community as well.
Well, one of the things that we told Councilman Byrd several years ago was that we needed independent oversight into the police. Um, and instead of him listening to what community members was saying, he decided to do his own thing with the city attorney Phil Noblet and basically reinstate Park, which is a police advisory review committee, which has been pretty much in existence for the past 10 to 15 years. So again, it makes no sense if there was a board that was looking into police issues. Wouldn't they have done something by now if they've been in existence for the last 10 to 15 years? But how could you see a difference if police officers are on the board? So the fact that he totally ignored and decided to do his own thing, and to where we actually had to get signatures. We had only had to get about 4,200. We had 6,000 people. So that shows you the voice of the people. 6,000 people signed a petition that we just turned in on December the 2nd for independent oversight into the police. And the reason why we wanted independent oversight was we didn't want a board or a committee that would answer to the city council or to the mayor. I mean, people change offices sometimes every 4 years. Can you think about how much hell that would be? You might have a mayor that supports it. You might have a mayor that doesn't. You might have a council that supports it. You might have a council that doesn't. So we wanted something that was going to be completely autonomous from even me as a council person. If I win that seat, I don't want any control over it. It needs to be something that is staffed by concerned citizens who really are going to look into these issues and hold the police department accountable, and creating some legislation behind that, just like Nashville did, to where they have subpoena power, meaning that they can question officers. That so one of the things that was an outcome of Nashville getting an oversight board was the amount of stops immediately after they got the board. The amount of stops of Black people went down because police officers knew, now if we can call you in and question you, buddy, on what you're doing, that's a level of accountability that police have never had before. So that was one of many reasons why I just don't have any why I just didn't have any more patience with Councilman Burns. That in so many instances, a lot of the things that people would tell him in the community, he would just either totally bypass or do the exact opposite. But yeah, that was one of many reasons.
Okay. As well as Councilman Byrd, you've also voiced your disdain for another city councilman, Miss Demetrius Coonrod.
Hmm.
And this is not to pick on neither one of them. This is just you seeing it from your perspective and you a voice of the people. So what have you seen in Miss Coonrod that you feel is not representing the people correctly?
Councilwoman Coonrod will stand with you. I can't totally flog her. She will stand. She will stand with you on certain things, but
Okay.
I have a saying of pick a side. You can't double dutch. So don't stand with the people today, and then next week when the situation gets a little hot, you can't stand with us. Stand with us when it's hot, when it's raining, when it's snowing. Stand with the people. And just the other thing is that sometimes she has some completely ridiculous anti-Black sentiments that she states in the presence of white people. One of the first instances to me that was completely embarrassing was me and this other young Black man by the name of Isaiah were down at the city council just talking about what's going on in the community. I would think that younger Black people who got elected to the city council would be excited that young Black millennials were showing up and then raising their voice about what's happening in the community and what we expect of our leadership. I would think that, I would be excited if I saw young people participating and taking responsibility for their community. But we really weren't treated that way. And there was a clip that went viral of her saying that Black people were lazy and complacent and we needed to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Now, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stated that only a cruel individual would tell a bootless man to pull himself up by boots he don't even have. So, I have, again, there's some things, even if you have those opinions, you don't say that in the presence of white folk. Giving them any impression that this is how you feel about your people, and then to say that the Black youth was just completely embarrassing and discouraging. So, I sometimes I just don't agree with, even if she feels that way, call Brother Kevin Muhammad, call somebody and make those statements one-on-one with another Black person. Don't say those things in the presence of white people.
One thing I noticed, and even Martin Luther King, especially Malcolm X, him and Martin Luther King, they had to learn that if you have a disagreement amongst each other, you don't voice it in front of company, so to speak. And because if we
And
got
I've
to
done that.
divide,
I'm guilty. I'm not gonna throw stones that I don't deserve cast my way. I've made those mistakes of putting certain things out publicly. But it's just a different feel when you're in a room full of almost nothing but white people and you got a handful of Black people and a person is making such statements.
so let me ask you this,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, we got to speak for our people. Why do you, because before they, if I remember correctly, before they won their seat, both of them had a different tune, so to speak, correct?
Correct.
Why do you, and it's not just them, it's like over the years, I'm 37, I'll be 38 in March. Over the years, I've noticed, and this is one of the reasons why I don't even participate in politics. I know the political game, but one of the reasons why I don't vote is because you will tell me this when you campaigning, then when you get your little seat, you flip the script on me. Why do you think that is with especially most Black politicians in this city?
Well, the first thing is one of the Black council persons said this to me, Marie, don't think just because we all Black that everybody's on the same page. So one reason why I think so much happens is because we have people who, first of all, how do we see, have we ever seen like a slate running, meaning that there was a group of people who had already talked about what they agreed upon, how they have an aligned vision for the community. That's never happened. We just had Black people that ran in this district, Black people that ran in that district. Everybody's has their own separate agenda. And where is the consistency of meeting and understanding and transparency? And I think besides no pre-planning, I think that the other thing is that it's not them. Leadership is a reflection of the people. Our standards are so low. I've gone back and I've looked at the footage from 2017, and I can't say honestly that I was really impressed, because my thing is I hope that people can see before 2020 that all you got to do is go. My page is public. You can go back and you can see all of the things that I've had my hand in. People can say a whole lot about me, and I'm sure some do. But what you can't say is that when they were looking to sell the Glenwood Center from up under our community, Marie wasn't involved in making sure that we stopped that sale from the city selling it to either Memorial Hospital or Notre Dame. What people can't say is when people needed to be fed on the west side because they don't have a grocery store, Marie didn't link with CCJ and go and hand out food in the middle of the blazing summer to make sure residents in the west side got food. You know, that there's so many things that I've had the pleasure of just serving the people with other folks, to where I don't have to get in front of people and tell you what I'm going to do. I can say, look at what I've done, judge me based on what I've done, and I'm asking you to partner with me for the future and give me the opportunity to do more with the power that you are giving me, right? I think we've got to raise our standard of what we expect from leadership. And when you begin to straighten up your back that you deserve more, your people deserve more, your children deserve more, your community deserves more, well, you're going to begin to demand and expect of leadership more. And we can't just believe people about what they say. You should be able to pull up, because these elections happen every 4 years. You can get a lot accomplished in 4 years.
Exactly.
Right? So you should be able to look and see a body of work from somebody and say, well, this person did this person did that. Well, I can see if I give them their power, at least I can say that they might be able to do something with it because they're already doing something. You can't expect people who aren't doing anything to do something.
That's true. But I mean, people will say, like the individuals on the council, they'll say, "Well, I was putting in my work." I mean, you know how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my next questions, which I don't even have to ask, I was going to ask, why would you think you are valuable for the seat? But you just stated that. And if y'all didn't catch it, rewind and you'll catch it. I guess my next question would be, what triggered y'all with the I Can't Breathe chat or cha? What triggered the let me go back before I get there. All right, you got your George Floyds, you got your Ahmaud Arbery's, you got your Breonna Taylor's. Why isn't it the same outpouring and push when something happens to us in our own community? Why do you think that is?
Well, I can say that when tax got beaten, I asked people to come to the city council and we packed it out. And some of these same people that we're talking about on this live stream shut down the city council meeting so they didn't have to hear us speak. So I have seen instances where people in the community will rally together for a change. The problem that the snag that we keep running in every time is leadership. Because whether or not the people pour into the streets, which they have, people protested for Javario Eagle when he was shot, shut down intersections when he was murdered. But who is holding up progress? The leadership. And so, I think there's just certain times and windows in history or in a generation where all of the conditions are just there for a shift. And I just think that because of COVID, and the world just being slowed down to a crawl, where most of us have been so desensitized by seeing these lynchings in a modern era so often and so consistently that now we had no way of escape. So if you furloughed and at home and you're seeing Ahmaud Arbery, Elijah McClain, Rashard Brooks, you're seeing this name after name after name after name. Eventually, where you did have the ability to kind of put your head into the sand while you're working and you're in the rat race, now you ain't got nothing but time on your hands. And so I would say that people have showed up. It's just I think the conditions of things allowed us to have a little bit more of an outcry at this point. But people have been, I can go back and I can pull up the Chattanooga 8 with, Charlotte and uh, uh, Lorenzo Irvin, who started Concerned Citizens for Justice and is one of the reasons why we even have a city council. They were protesting and shutting down downtown in the 90s. So we've been showing up. It's just people are not moving when we do.
Okay, I guess my next question, because before we go far as into the whole thing, we're gonna stay kind of local right now.
Okay.
You stated far as on white media when they and this is kind of two part. They wrote an article on your brother C. Grammy, as
Mm-hmm.
well as they talked about one of my friends, as far as, and he was in the quote unquote 32. Why do you think they push the narrative of when you look a certain way, you automatically a criminal, or even if you do a crime, you worse off than what you actually did? Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, we've seen this tactic utilized throughout history. I mean, that's the whole reason for the classification of race, is because we have always been portrayed as this violent, beastly sort of creature that needs white people to have their hands around our neck controlling us because we don't know how to behave. We don't know how to act. So these tactics of, especially again when we talk about black males, for black men, this consistency of, if you connect a a race of people to criminal behavior, then the assumption that comes from that is that these people are born criminals, which means that gives you the right to over police them. That gives you the right to shovel them into your country's prisons. That gives you the right to do pretty much whatever you want to, because they ain't other criminals anyway.
Yeah. And why do you think, since the white media or the media, especially in this city, they criminalize us, why do you think we as a people always run into, we always want to run and watch News Channel 3, Channel 9, and Channel 12, and we always want to pick up the Times Free Press, when really, when we do something, if we do something positive, we get this much shine, if any. But when we do something negative, or if we kill each other, they show it before, especially before COVID, they used to show it for a whole week straight. Why do you think we keep running to this?
Because we have not created the outlets to control our own narrative. You will always run, if you don't have the institutions in your community, the methods of being able to communicate and to control your own narrative, then your narrative is going to be controlled for you. There is no in between. So until and part of it is that Black people have just kind of lost their roots. One of the things that happened, one of the only cities after slavery and the Civil War that had a Black newspaper was Chattanooga. Chattanooga. As a matter of fact, the Black newspaper that we had was a Black man taught himself how to print the paper, and then started printing it on Vine Street. So, what happened. We used to put out our own publications as means of being able to communicate and being able to talk about what was happening wherever we were. And so we need to kind of go back to our roots of like what you're doing. There's so many ways that you can do it, whether it's a podcast, whether you're live streaming, whether it's maybe making a digital newspaper. Like I see, the Chronicle is starting to get dab in that a little bit. Whether that's radio, every we need to be using every communications method that we have possible to be able to consistently communicate with one another, control our own narratives, talk about what's going on, talk about the future, even remember the history and oration and things of the past, and then connecting that all together on how we can be productive as Black people. But I would say we're going to continue to run to News Channel 9 and 12, and they're going to continue to paint us in this light until we take control of our own narrative.
I totally agree. Another question I want to ask you, why don't you think it's not I feel like it's not enough conflict resolution in between us? Because I just went to view a young man's body, friend of mine. We lost touch, but he was, he was killed by quote unquote another brother. Why do you feel like it's not enough in this city of conflict resolution? I do notice, and I got to salute Brother Kevin Muhammad and Brother William Muhammad. They're big on that, but we have to help them out more than we are doing, me, myself included. Why do you feel like it's not enough of that?
Well, the first thing is I would say is I don't particularly like calling our street organizations gangs. I consider them more social structures because that's the function that they serve. The people who I hold accountable is the leadership in any institution. So part of what's happening in the street is a crisis of leadership. I believe, and can't nobody convince me otherwise. I hear a lot of excuses from guys I know in the street life about what they can't do. They might lose respect. Look at here. If you call yourself a gangster or OG, triple G, triple OG, whatever you are, you should have some control of the members in your organization. And if especially because these kids love calling themselves the mob or the mafia, they couldn't be in the mafia if they wanted to. Because when the boss of an organization speaks, that settles it. If the boss says not another bullet is going to fly, in an Italian family, they would find you floating down the river if another bullet flew. You don't betray the leadership of your organization. And so if they're not instilling in these young, okay, you might want to join the group, but there's a hierarchy. And what we say as the top, when these things are not happening in the community, there's going to be some consequences. Now, I can't say what that'll look like because I ain't in the streets, but that's a leadership thing. But the other thing is that we Black people have so much work to do to be healthy human beings. I don't care, I grew up what people would consider middle class, and my mama threw a hot sauce bottle at my dad. That's dysfunctional. We don't really learn how to communicate one to another. There's no space that we really have for Black men to express their pain, and the same for Black women. We have not created networks of safety that places where you can go and be vulnerable about your pain. And a lot of stuff that we see happening in the streets, by the time it gets to a fight or gun violence, that's at the end of usually is a long riddled beef or rivalry that really a a lot of it is not even just about the people who are in that situation intimately. It's a lot of other things going on with that person. And so we really have to start creating these spaces, not only where we could come learning how to come to a table, and that we might have to do this 3-4 times before we get to a resolution. And even if we may not get to a resolution, when we walk away, we got respect for one another. Until we start creating environments like that, and then on top of that, creating environments where people can just come and unpack. Black people go through so much. So much. The average Black person is working 1.5, 2 jobs. The majority of us are trying to just work, stack our paper, take care of our family, take care of ourselves. We don't want no trouble. We really don't want no smoke. But we just have a lot going on. There's a lot that's happening in the community. There's a lot that impacts us, and we need places where we can just really unpack all of that and really start doing some healing work on being healthy individuals.
So I want to ask you about this. As
Mm-hmm.
far as I seen you go to, if I'm not mistaken, it was the South Side, correct? When
Mm-hmm.
you was helping the residents in was it the old Stone Ridge, or is it still called Stone Ridge?
It's still called Stone Ridge. That's correct.
And I even shared it on the Deprogram Show page where you was talking to the residents and helping them basically go to the I guess the what would they, not the landlord but the property manager,
Mm-hmm.
and voice their opinions based on their living conditions. Could you
Mm-hmm.
speak a little bit on that and talk about the progress y'all made on that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I am a bit advocator of is Black people knowing their rights, no matter what the situation is, whether that's dealing with police, whether that is you are renting, whatever the situation may call for. Black people need to know what their rights are. And so, as a renter, you have a right to have a safe and sanitary and accessible dwelling place. And the pictures that I shared of mold, ceilings falling in, the pool looked like a swamp, and then being brought into the situation and seeing that a good majority of the people there are either young mothers or are Black women who are retired or near retirement. It really infuriated me because first of all, the person who is the property manager is a Black woman, and so she's allowing her people to live in these conditions, but then was illegally, because people don't know their rights, and there's a lot of protections that have been put into place because of COVID-19 when it comes to people basically being kicked out of their homes. And so she was basically illegally evicting people. And so basically we connected with an attorney, and we were able to stop the majority of the illegal evictions and get people to be able to stay in their homes. Can you imagine a grandmother being put out on the street illegally in the middle of the winter? Good Lord. So where we are right now is they're testing the walls and the ceilings to see if this was actually mold. And if it turns out to be, we're going to be suing them for damages for all of the people who have been impacted that live there.
Because I remember it was a similar case. I remember a guy. I don't want to speak his name. He actually died from living in a house that had mold in it. So
Yeah.
I know that's a serious thing.
Yeah. And Chattanooga has one of the highest rates of children with asthma, with juvenile asthma. So can you imagine children who might already be struggling, with asthma, having to breathe in mold, what that's doing to them, what that's doing to our elders. And so again, I'm a person of action. I want to get in a situation, if somebody calls me in, I want to help you get it resolved. And I definitely wanted to make sure that that these folks were organized to be able to tackle such a large issue like this.
I'm gonna go back to politics for just a second. Why do you
Okay.
think there's so many people running for mayor in the city of Chattanooga? Because I
I got
think
a
is it 18 now?
18. That is correct. Number one, to split the black vote. I believe, this is my theory, I believe that certain people are paid to enter races, because black people are one day going to wake up and realize the power that we have. Just like nobody gets to the president's office without black people, and we saw that in this last election. Nobody gets to the mayor's office without black people. And so the potential, I think people got scared when they started seeing there were several black people running for office. Like, oh my God, if we have a black person win, what does that mean for Chattanooga, and what does that mean for certain people in power? So I think number one, to dilute the power and the strength of the black vote. But I also think just people in their ego, people who think that they deserve to run for mayor, and not really understanding that just because you were a council person doesn't mean you'll be a good mayor. Just because you're a wealthy person doesn't mean that you'll be a good mayor. Even a mayor is still supposed to be a person of the people. And so I think it's a little bit of, I think people are paid to enter races here to keep the status quo. And I think people in their ego, they let their ego get in the way, where they know that they don't have the qualifications to run a city. They ain't done nothing where they at, but they asking to be elevated.
That's crazy. I guess what's the next what's the steps you taking now to get prepared for the race ahead?
Oh man, I've already been going through the community, talking to people. I have, I can say this a little bit with my chest out. I have already outraised Bird almost in what he raised in his entire last campaign, and we still got about 2.5 months to go. So I believe I'm setting a standard already. I have people who are excited that I'm running. I'm excited to talk to the people. I put out my messaging. I try to keep people updated, not just about the race, but things that are going on in the community, things that they can benefit from. Like what I posted today was making sure people had the information that you can still get signed up for free EPB internet if you are the parent of a child in Hamilton County that's on free or reduced lunch, and how could they access that information. I will be putting out information on tomorrow about how you can get an absentee ballot. So just making sure people have the resources of knowing if you have been, if you've received a letter to be evicted, that there are resources. You can still get a lawyer for free to represent you, so you don't get illegally evicted before December the 30th. So I'm still just doing what I have been doing, and that's staying entrenched in the community, accessible to the people, and just being where they are.
Okay. So I guess my next question: if you are elected, we can
Mm-hmm.
count on you to go as hard as you going right now, correct?
Oh man, those folks are gonna be so sick. That's all. uh, I I'm getting ready to take it to another level. I want to get in and learn as much as possible. I want to know every single ounce of power that the people have, and I can't wait to educate the people as I learn. I want to welcome people, because I feel as if people are not invited to the table, and then if they do come to the table, that their voice isn't heard. I want to set a standard of being able to meet consistently with community members, with organizations, to where we get in a rhythm and a habit of discussing business, of discussing the future, of discussing problems and solutions. I'm ready to take it to another stratosphere. So I hope people are strapping themselves in, because it's going to be one hell of a day when I
Oh,
dawn those doors.
okay, let me ask you this. Or I know you said you wanted to debate Councilman Byrd, correct?
Hmm.
Have you heard anything on that?
I have not, but I will be contacting him again because if you can't debate on the issue, sir, then, well, why are you running?
Throw, throw on the Deprogram Show. Throw one issue, just one, that you would want to debate him on.
I
Just
would
one.
I would want to debate him on the Harriet Tubman development.
Okay, and that's fair because if you're an active seat holder and you have a someone you're running against, you should. This me, and I'm gonna put it out there. You should debate it because if you hold a seat and somebody is coming for that seat and they feel like they could do better and they have an issue on the table, you should debate them and say, "Hey, this is my stance," and they say this they stand. I don't see nothing wrong with it.
Politics is like getting in the boxing ring, baby. Don't get in the ring if you ain't gonna swing. Okay, somebody use that. Don't get in the ring if you're not gonna swing. But the issues are too important. The community is really at a turning point of where for Black people here, especially with how many Black people are being displaced out of their communities. If we don't get ourselves together, family, they got a plan for you, but it ain't what you think it is. So I don't have time for Mr. Byrd shucking and jiving. I've asked him to debate me on these issues once before, and some folks encouraged let him off the hook. Well, now you're talking about getting this seat for another 4 years, sir. It's time for us to not only ask some questions, but we've also got to bring up your record because you've got 4 years of votes. You've got 4 years of yeses, nos, or abstains. And so, did you support the issues of the people? Did you side with the people? Did you stand with the people? Or did you side with the establishment and the status quo? And he's got the answer for that. And I think he knows that. So,
So let me.
go ahead. Hmm.
No, I don't want to cut you off. Finish what you
No,
were
go.
saying.
No, I'll be reaching out to him again.
So did he not agree with the people on anything?
Bird stood with he's helped people individually, but as far as what I would say, Bird doing anything to take the district forward, he can't claim the Avondale Center because I got a video of him from 2017 saying that the Avondale Center uh was the outcome of the councilman before him, so he can't claim that the Avondale Rec because he didn't do that. He handled the golden shovel, but that's not his work. That was the previous councilman, Councilman Freeman, before him. Um, so when I think of what is one major thing that he did, he might say Industries. Highland Park Neighborhood Association was about ready to to come out with pitchforks and torches because of that, because there was no benefit of jobs to people in the community. So I don't see anything that he could really claim that he's done to be able to A, get people employed, B, have people to be able to get more money, C, improve. We have 14 schools in our district. I ain't never heard him talk about any schools or education or how we're going to put money in the schools. Our rec centers are dilapidated, falling apart, short of the new one that we just built. So, where's the progress for the community? I just don't see it. So, he's got the answer for all of that.
And another, since you mentioned that about the allocate, basically you was talking about the allocation of funds. What is the major problem in? Because I'm from the West Side. I grew up in College Hill Court. What is the major problem of allocations of funds in the city? Because when you go in certain places in this city, you see major, even in certain, I know if you probably noticed this too. When you go in certain neighborhoods, in certain stores, you see a little bit more upkeep and you see even more resources, so to speak, in these stores than you have close to the inner city. What is your take on the problem in the allocation of funds?
Two things. Our council rubber stamps whatever the mayor wants. Rarely do they question him on the budget. I don't think the council really even understands the power that they have when it comes to the budget. Um, One of the outcomes of the protest was one of our black councilpersons, Councilman Oglesby, who's running for mayor, said that making changes to the budget or amendments to the budget was impossible. He said the divestment was impossible. And don't you know they made changes to the budget because we kept protesting? So people not even understanding the power that they have to make changes to the budget, to question where we are putting money. I also, with the allocation of funds, what we have seen is money be fraudulently wasted or outright stolen. Another mayoral candidate, Wade Hinton. We had a company that sold us LED lights. We had them in a city warehouse because they didn't work. And the company broke into the warehouse, literally right down the street from where I live, and stole $6 million worth of lights. Now, they had 32 black men all on the front page talking about crack. But you have white people who can break into warehouses and steal $6 million worth of equipment. And those people don't see jail time. Nobody gets arrested. Nobody goes to prison. Nothing happens. So, you know, seeing where people just outright steal money, where people just put stuff into what I call slush funds, like the mayor created a budget line item where he was investing into housing, a housing fund, and nothing ever happened with that. He was supposed to be doing and this happened in our district. There's so much I want to hold Bert accountable for. They bought duplexes or basically had duplexes that you could buy, and the city was going to put up $30,000. That program never even existed, but they allocated money in a budget for it. So where did that money go? If the program never happened, where did that money go? So people just create, the mayor just creating stuff. Nobody has any oversight or takes responsibility for the budget. And so a lot gets wasted when it comes to taxpayer dollars, are just outright stolen. And the council just either looks the other way or basically doesn't even understand what's happening.
So is what I'm hearing you saying is basically, far as the budget, the city council holds a great deal of responsibility for the budget.
That is correct. The budget is not passed without the city council.
So they will be like the House or the Senate on the local level.
That is correct. That's called the balances and the checks of power.
So they selling us out.
Well,
I mean, it ain't no way around it.
It ain't no way around it. I mean, if you're just allowing the mayor to shove a budget into your face, and then you don't get to you don't ask any questions. Well, why do we have $1 million set over here and for a housing program, but the program is not even put together? I wouldn't fund anything. I would vote no. We need to strike that from the budget, because if we're going to put something into the budget, you need to have a plan of how you're going to implement this. You can't just say we're going to throw money into a department or throw money over here, but don't have a plan on how is this going to work in real life. And that's how people are able to steal money, because we allocate money to stuff. Nobody does any follow-up, and the city council just passes it and then doesn't go back and look to see if when you do vote on it, is the mayor's office implementing what they said that they were going to do and holding him accountable.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I know when they hear your name, they be like, man, please.
Like, I know they're glad that we're meeting on Zoom, because can you imagine, especially back during the protest, if we were able to go to city hall with 700 people?
So let me ask you this. It seems like, and you correct me if I'm wrong because you know more about the times when they meet. It seems like when they make the most important decisions, it's during the time when the most involved people are at work.
That is correct. So strategic planning session happens at 1:30. That's really the most important meeting. By the time you get to the 6 o'clock meeting, the council has already talked about pretty much what they're going to vote, how they're going to vote by the time you get to 6 o'clock. So, yeah, the one of the things that COVID has done somewhat has made the meetings all available to where you could see them digitally. So you could pull them up and maybe listen to one, if you could have an ear pod on or AirPod on, while you're at work, you can listen about what they're talking about, or that you can go back and see a recording the next day if you want to follow up. But before COVID, you actually had to be there physically because there was no video, no discussion, none of that.
So they didn't. So to basically put it on record, they put it basically in a transcript form
On a recorder. Like they're a 1991 investigator.
That's almost like this. This is my take on that. That's like typing in something and sticking it in the book. Ain't nobody gonna look in, and we could get away with this cause you ain't gonna look this deep in the book.
And that's why people don't like me, because not only do I come down there, and I've been going down there for years at this point, and I'm recording and I'm taking notes of what's being talked about, how people are voting, what's going on, but I'm coming back to the community and explaining to people, really connecting the dots for the people, how things are going to impact you and what decisions are being made on your behalf, and do you know about it? Because a lot of times by the time we get impacted, the decision was made months before. We didn't know because we were at work. So I have taken the responsibility of making sure that people in the community know what decisions are being made. So people who are representatives can't just come in the community talking that jive. But when you see them at the neighborhood association meeting, you can say, at this meeting last week, we saw you voted on this right here, and you didn't talk to us about this. Why? Why did you vote this way? Why didn't you tell us what was going on? They can hold people accountable. We're not here just to give you a job. You have a job to do, and that is to represent the best interest of the community that you claim to represent.
Do you think it's a way that the people could get together to where they could change the time of the meeting? Because that's ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure that we could do a whole lot. The question is do we have people who are going to propose changes being made to our structure of government? That's the question. And again, that's a leadership thing. I think we are seeing that happen already, like I said, because of COVID and with Zoom. But I think one of the things that you can do with Zoom is, while you stream on Zoom, you can stream on Facebook. They haven't figured this out yet. You can stream on Facebook. So beginning to expand on the ways and the methods in which people can connect with you are the things that I would be interested in, because everybody can't make it there physically, and most people can't. We can try to have a consensus of what the best meeting is going to be, but of course, I think the digital option is really the future anyways, because I can tell you, by the time I get off work, I don't want to have to drag myself to a meeting physically. I love the luxury, even as a person who attended city council, of being able to sit at home with a glass of wine or or my dinner, and I can just watch what's going on from the comfort of my own home.
So, but I'm gonna say this. This is just my take on, and you brought up something. I think that might be on purpose though, for them not, even though we gotta record it. Even if they know that it'll scream across platforms, especially if we doing something underhanded, we want to keep it on the back burner. So that might be on purpose.
Well, I think we need to have a hybridized situation where if you want to come to city council in person, you still have that ability. But on top of that, we need to be expanding the ways of how we reach people. So there always needs to be the physical option. And I think we need to have discussions about maybe better times to meet, and maybe even a better day to meet, uh, to where we could have more participation from the people in the community. I would firmly be interested in that.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you this question, and then I'm gonna ask you maybe two more questions, and we'll wrap it up because we can chop it up all night long. All right. What made you and Grammy? This first question: what made y'all realize? Okay, we really need to get out here and protest, and we really need to get out. And what was the plan when y'all started, and then the transition into the People's Podcast? Cause correct me if I'm wrong, cause I kind of try to pay attention. It's like
Okay.
the protest. Then y'all, it seemed like it was strategic. You went from the protest, then y'all transitioned into the People's Podcast. Kind of guide us through that.
Absolutely. So when me and Cameron went to the protest, we were there from day one. We didn't organize it, it was organized by the youth.
Okay.
They had never protested before, and we wanted to make sure that A, they were not going to get arrested, and B, that they would be safe. Because, of course, anytime you protest, especially if you're Black, the police are going to be out. And so, one of the things that we have learned being activists who have protested before is if you don't know routes, sometimes the police can trap you, and that's happened. They trap you because you might not know the direction in which you're going, and tear gas you and things. So we went down there just to downtown to make sure everybody was safe. We didn't lead the protest. We were letting the young people have their time. And then, people just kept saying, they wanted to keep protesting. And so I had talked to Reverend Charlotte and Mama Tamara, who's one of our elders, and we had already organized a protest that we were going to have on the front side of the Hamilton County Jail. And we organized that in about 24 hours. And I showed up 20 minutes early, and it was 200 something people on the lawn. So from there, we just one of the things that we wanted to see, because it was just such energy, was we didn't just want to protest. We wanted to see there be an outcome because we protested. It's one thing to picket, but Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. If you don't demand nothing, you ain't gonna get nothing. And so we didn't want to let these folks like Chief Roddy, who was capping on Twitter about what he was going to do with his officers, off the hook. Well, you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is, and you're going to have to make some changes, and you need to make it on paper so we can hold you accountable. And then our biggest demand that we came up with was divestment, or as people famously know, defund the police. We know that policy changes are good, and we accomplished that. But the only way that you can cripple white supremacy is you got to hit it where it hurts in the pocket. And so we wanted to see some monetary investments into the Black community, specifically through transportation and through our young people, by giving them access to various different resources, much of which Grimy has oversaw on the fourth floor of the library. And so, yes, we were protesting. We made more changes than I ever thought we could. But I understand, and Grimy understood, that protesting does not last forever. Eventually, people are going to go home, and you too are going to get tired. And the power structure, if you protest too long, they're going to get tired of you. And so we understood, and God and the ancestors, I believe, are so strategic, to where we had this massive energy that happened literally on the heels of our local election. And so this was a fine time for us to take all of that energy that people still had, the awareness that people had, and let them know that, yes, people participated in the presidential election, and that's great. But the biggest impact really is your local elections. Your mayor and your city council decide all of where your tax dollars go, whether they stay in your community or whether they don't. Whether or not you get sidewalks or you don't, whether your trash gets picked up on time. Your city council has a lot, and the mayor have a lot more power than what we really put into like the presidential election. So we wanted to create a communications point because we really didn't feel like people talked about local politics enough, and then specifically gave Black people who are running for political office a platform. And we decided to do that, and we started interviewing mayoral candidates and really also talking about other issues that are going on in the city as well and in the country. So it was strategic. We knew that we would have to transition, which anybody out there, if you want to stay relevant and fresh and if stay moving, you've got to be able to shift with the changes in the season, and understand the season that you're in and the season that you're getting ready to walk into. And so we wanted to be an asset to the people, not just in the streets, but even politically.
Okay. So tell the people who don't know, because I'm pretty sure y'all got a lot of followers. Tell the people where can they find the People's Podcast?
On all streaming platforms. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes. We're on all streaming platforms.
Okay. So before you get out of here, I want you to tell the people your famous ending, how you always tell them when you do any live, you got to do it.
Absolutely. As always, family, if no one's taken any time today to let you know that you are a loved human being, I love you all. And guess what? There's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
I thank you for tuning in to the Deprogram Show. Had the very special honor of interviewing Miss Marie Mott. I pray that we could do it again because, hey, I have many questions, but we can't wrap it all up.
It's a one.
For hours. And we also got something planning. We ain't going to let y'all know. We do that on the back burner. I thank y'all for tuning in. Please go like the Deprogram Show page, as well as subscribe to the Deprogram Show YouTube channel. And anything Miss Marie got going on, y'all check her out. And I thank y'all for tuning in. And we gone.
We out. Thank you.